Carmella-T. So I wanted to jump on here today and share with you a really awesome some information I got on how to use recycled materials to create little props, little miniature dioramas, maybe you want to call them. But and this is the reason I'm sharing it. So I'll explain it in a minute. First, I want to welcome everybody. If you are not familiar with Eco Art with Carmella-T, we create with all recycled materials, fabrics, and supplies. It is. I'm making a cup of coffee. My new cup, by the way. It is a very significant thing to do to use recycled materials, even if you're using a little bit, because you're diverting all of those materials from going to the landfill and disseminating into the air more toxic chemicals and what, especially blends like this. This is a thrift shop. Isn't this a lovely blouse, by the way? Look. This blouse and this necklace, thrift shop, probably $3. It looks much more, really. I just looked at it like objectively and I'm like, it looks like it's much more. It was $3. Anyway, so it's a very I don't even know how to say this. I like to emphasize it on this channel as much as I can. So creating with recycled materials, as an artist, you're making a huge statement when you do that. So if you're coming back, thank you so much for coming back. For those of you who kind of toggle in and out, you know that we work on a lot of different projects here. We do, because the focus is the recycled, creating with recycled materials. Now, we're not going to drop the beautiful chakra mandala, a blanket that we are working on. We continue that project too. And I am also needle felting, and I'm going to be starting another a granny square project. I want to make up, as you know, I made up some granny square bags, a good number of them actually, but I sold some of them and I still have some of them. But I want to make some other things for an upcoming class in February. So let me bring you with me. We're going to turn the TV down. Oh, and you can say hello to the finches if the finches are inspirational to you. Sorry about the TV. I have the music on for them, and I'll turn it down. And thank you for being, they're so tiny, it's hard to see them. They're sitting, one's sitting on the floor and one's sitting in the nest. So, yeah, I pulled up an article here. And so let me explain to you why I look into these articles and I do the research. Many years ago, look, this little guy is 25 years old. I just started to revamp him a little bit. So he needs his eyes back and his nose. But this is Scrappy. I think a number of people have a little Scrappy. Scrappy is based on a real little mouse. The mouse and I came face to face in my shed when I had my house, which I had given up. I gave up my house long ago because of when everything went up in 2009. But the mouse and I came face to face. He was up on one of my bins. In those bins, I had yarn stored away. And he had gotten into the bin, and he had my yarn all over him. It was the cutest. It was so adorable. And he just, when I opened the door, he was up on the bin, and we were face to face. And of course he was frightened, so he didn't move. But I took that picture in my head, you know. And So I made this little scrappy, and here he had little sticks. So this little guy is going to be revised. As you know, I keep my prototypes. I really, really like my prototypes. I will keep them. So that's scrappy. So this is what I'm doing now. Let me just bring you along with me a little bit. I'm working on, for those of you who are working artists, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're working on different venues of your art, right? And you're trying to figure out, I know I am anyway, where am I going to go for spring to sell? How am I going to do this? So, I really want to, let me just share this because I think it's important. Um, You really want to be part of a venue that is mindful of your work. I'm not saying they need to gloat all over you, but they need to be mindful that your work is in their place. That's super important because you're taking the time to make that work and you've got it, you're putting it in their hands, kind of, you know what I mean? So you want to have that good, I'll put it like this, my grandmother used to say, you want to be able to shake someone's hand and look them in the eye. You want to have that good vibe. That relationship is what I'm saying. So I think that's super important. So I always scope out, kind of look at a place first, and if they're really interested or they're not, that type of deal. You kind of want to see where they're at business wise regarding their art. So just with that said, I'm not thinking of anybody at all in particular. So with that, I'm making more of these mice. I'm making a bunch of little mice. And I'm not sure yet how I want to display them on something. So maybe I'll put them, and I'm going to be making more of my mushrooms. I'm making more. Maybe I make some mushrooms with tiny, this mouse would have to be a little smaller, with a little mouse on it. These are things you can make and sell. Okay, so anyway, with that, I am working on this little sheep. Okay, I don't know if you can see her very good. I just got my wool the other day. I believe I shared that with you, didn't I? I hope I did. For those of you, if I didn't, I'm pretty sure I did. I got green and purple. Oh, I did. And I do have the clip, the short videos going on up after this one today. So anyway, I got purple and green and then regular white. So this is the regular white. And this, so you see I put little shoes or little socks on this little sheep. And what she's going to be doing is, I made these yesterday. This is, look, you see what these are? And this is just a little piece of fabric I had, which I don't know if I'm going to use this on my little, but look what these are. I looked up on how to make them. Okay, they're knitting needles. They're miniature knitting needles. You know what this is? These are paper clips. You can buy the paper clips, red, blue. I have a whole bunch of them, different colors. And then you glue a little bead at the end, and voila, you have little miniature knitting needles. Okay, that's what these are. And why did I make them? Because I want my little sheep, that's what she's going to be doing. She's going to be knitting. And I have, maybe I'll use this as my little basket. I made that, that's twine. Or maybe I make another one. But is she too adorable? So I'm just trying to give you like some ideas because there's so many. We're going to go over the article right now on um, little things you have. For example, let me just pull some of these over here, and then I'll go over the article. This a little spool that you did have thread on it. You can either keep the thread on or use them that are empty. Little bottle caps, little corks. Okay, so things like that hold on to, and the little boxes, tiny little boxes. Okay, so now let me read to you the article. I'm going to pull this up here. And thank you, by the way, for having a cup of coffee with me. It's not an article, actually, it's a list. Okay, so I'm just working on my needle felted projects to get them out there. And thank you for being with me, by the way. So I need to do one thing very quickly. One moment. Okay, sorry about that. I just feel if I don't have a hot coffee before I begin this, I'm going to lose my voice that time in the morning. So I think you're going to love, love this article, and I'll tell you where I got it. It's a list, but we'll go through it here. They don't have pictures, but this list has it has you can go to. Okay. So okay. So because the reason I'm taking time to review this today, for those of you who are just scrolling, you're coming in, welcome, thank you for being with me, is I made these little knitting needles to go with my little sheep yesterday, and I said, um, I had gotten the idea from my research, and I said, definitely let me share this with my YouTubers because you may be very interested. So some of these are very obvious. Popsicle sticks. Okay. So we know that you can make, furniture, little chairs and things like this. I made this chair. Let me just get this. This is not very well done, by the way. I was just kind of playing around with it, and I used fabric glue. I thought I used wood glue, but it didn't work. I didn't do it really well, but I started to make this chair. This is out of clothespins. So you can make furniture, out of different things like this. So, almost anything, when you think about it, you can stack up little pieces of wood like this and make furniture, buttons even, okay, shells, so many things, rocks, okay. But they list some things that are not so obvious. Okay, so egg curtains. So you can make a little dollhouse miniatures from egg cartons, and you can use the rounded part, the shape of them, for like a bathroom sink, like if you're making a little diorama for your little miniatures. And you can use the rounded parts for lampshades and for mini plants. Okay, so they don't just take the cardboard and kind of throw the plants in or turn it upside down. They paint it, they, put Mod Podge or whatever on there, different little things to build it up, to create. But the thing is, you're using the egg carton as a base for your structure. So it's right there for you. So plastic sheets. I thought this was interesting. Let's see if she says, yeah. Plastic sheets can be made, can be used as glass panes, to make windows, to make doors or windows in the doors. Picture frames for a miniature dollhouse. So that's something I didn't think of readily, but that's a really good idea. So this one's kind of obvious, paper. I mean, paper you can use to make teeny tiny little cards or little books, wrapping paper, if you want to make little teeny tiny miniature presents for your little miniature critters. I'm going to be making some critters today behind the scenes, guys. I mean, yes, I'm making the mushrooms and finish it. I toggle back and forth. I am also working on something that's challenging. I'll tell you what it is. I'm working on, I'm not going to show it to you yet, but I'm working on a barn owl. I don't know if you've ever seen that. If you haven't, first look up what a real barn owl looks like, and then look up the needle felted or the artistic ones. People make them very realistic. I do like the realistic, but I do like the artistic signature too. So that's kind of more where I come from. But the barn owl is kind of scary almost looking. It's very interesting looking creature. So I thought I'd make that because we have barn owls in Vermont. So I'm kind of focusing on the Vermont critters, but I'm also focusing to get them out in stores, but I'm also focusing on some pretty just creative critters. Just like this one. This I made, oh my gosh, this 15, 13 years ago. It's kind of disheveled. It really is. But this is just an abstract of a bunny. So I want to make more like this. This is the back of the bunny. It's really felted. Your felt will felt, but air may get into it too if you didn't felt it like, super tight, which does happen sometimes. But anyway, this is very old. So, but I'll be making more abstracts a little bit like that and a little bit different. So, okay, paper board. So this is different. Paper board, you can use when you're building something boxy or very tiny, use paper board to make like little, like from cereal boxes is what they're saying. And then you can make like a teeny little box like this, for example. So I just love these little knitting needles for those of you joining. Just too darn cute. Making more of those. Wine corks. So wine corks, you can put like a little, where's the wine cork I had right here? Here, this little wine cork. You can put a little hole in the top there, kind of hollow it out, and put like little fake plants in it. You can do that. Or you can turn it on the side, which I saw on another. I don't know if they say it here. Let's see what they say. Yeah, it just says you can make a little jar, like, or you can slice it. You can slice it like this, straight up and down, and make a little cork board for your little miniature diorama. Or what they're not listing in this particular site. Oh, and this site, by the way, giving credit to amyriver.com. Okay, and let me see, I just want to make sure I know where I'm at. 6. So the title is Build Miniatures by Recycling and Upcycling. Okay, so this is a wonderful little list that she gives us. So on another site I found that you can take the little wine cork, turn it on its side like this, and put a little hole right in the middle, just hollow it out a little bit, and then take something like this, like a long bead, and put it in. You can't really see it, but you put it in, and so you're making a little water barrel. Okay, I thought that was really creative. Okay, so number 7, lids and caps. So caps like, whoops, sorry, that's a little mushroom. Little caps like this. This is for my ginger ale bottle. Wine bottles aren't the only things that you can use. You use these little caps, plastic soda from soda bottles, and the crown caps that come with the, okay. Tubes and jars opening, for example, certain toothpaste caps. Oh, she doesn't say what you can use them for, so let me tell you what you can use these for. You can put little holes in the side here, and you can wrap this with fabric, and you can make a little basket. Or you can use this as a little, which she does show a picture of this using the Coke cap as a pie plate. You know, you'd have to make the little pie out of the polymer clay. So that's something we're going to get back into also. I worked with the polymer clay probably 700 videos ago. A little bit. I wasn't crazy about it. I don't even know if I kept the videos. Just because I'm not a clay person. I find it difficult to manipulate it, and then my wrists hurt. And that's how I have found it. Now, maybe I had the wrong clay. But the other thing you can use these for that I was showing my class on last one of the classes we had is you can turn it upside down like this. I don't have a, well, maybe this one's small enough. You know, look, yeah, I guess this one's smaller. You turn it upside down and you can use it as a little hat. Okay, you would cover this, but it makes a nice, really does make a nice little hat. And or you can use it as a little pot and pan. There's a lot of things you can use this for. Okay, so that's that, lids and caps. Number 8, skewers. She says wooden skewers can be used for all kinds of creations. You can use them to make the back of a spindle back of the chair. You can also use them, yes, this is what I made these a few times, as a broomstick. And, you know, with the wooden handle. So, for this even you could even just use this, if I can get it here, just a simple stick even. And here, I've got another one right here. Yeah, you can just use a stick and make a little broom. So I can make a little broom. You know, I'm going to have her holding the little miniature knitting needles, but maybe I make another one and I have her holding a little broom. I don't know, but it's so cute. You know, it just gives it such a little cute effect. Okay. Or, oh yes, this I love. It says, or you can use the skewers or wooden sticks for to make miniature garden tools. Miniature garden tools. That's a really good idea. Okay, now dry coffee grounds. It's almost a given, but maybe if you're making a little plant next to your, you know, your diorama for your little miniature critter. She's not done yet, by the way. Her name's going to be Daisy, and you'll see why. when she is done. I cannot wait to complete this little project. But you can use coffee grounds for dirt, like in a little planter, dirt. And it's a really good thing because, by the way, coffee grounds, right? They're natural, right? They also keep away insects and odor. I don't know if you knew that. I learned that when I was cleaning, when I had a little cleaning company. Okay, so aluminum foil. Aluminum foil um, can be scrunched up and you can mold it and shape it and it can serve as a structural core for a miniature object. However, as opposed to using aluminum foil for the hidden inner bits, it can also be useful for cladding a miniature project. Like you can make a bucket out of paper and then cover it with aluminum foil to achieve the metallic appearance, and give it strength. That is such a good idea. I am not crazy about using aluminum foil. I'm not. I don't like the idea of buying and using lots and lots of it. But I think, for little tiny miniatures, it's not a bad idea. Pro tip, treat the aluminum foil with some scratching and touches of rusty brown paint to make the bucket look well used. So that's a good idea. So the other thing that is used when you're creating little miniature props for your little miniature critters, and just for those of you joining, are straws. So drinking straws are different varieties, um, and several of them can be used for miniature projects. The classic plastic bendy straws are perfect when you're making a pipe. So some people really get into the dioramas and they make little kitchen sinks, they make little houses. I don't know if you do that. I am not an advanced miniaturist. I am an amateur miniaturist. I am an advanced crochetist. I am an advanced texture artist, textile artist, but I am not an advanced miniaturist. So there are advanced miniaturists out there you can consult with. This is why I needed the coffee. I'm sorry. Another type of drinking straw is the thick and sturdy paper kind. These are useful to make cylindrical objects like tiny storage bins. Oh, and drinking mugs. How adorable is that idea? So, okay. Okay. I mean, I don't have any straws. I do have the coffee stirrers, which is next on the list. So, coffee stirrers. So, this is another, before I forget, let me just get this. Don't forget your miniature props for your little gnomes. We're going to be making more gnomes to go with our sheep and our bunnies. Don't forget your gnomes. So you can make little planters for them. You can make knitting needles for them. You can do all of this. So the next thing on the list is coffee stirrers. So they're similar to the popsicle sticks, only more narrow and thin. They're very thin. So this says you can, if you need tiny wooden planks and boards, I guess you can use those for that. For building furniture is what they're saying. Okay. There's a lot of them here. Okay, yarn. Of course, if you have some fine crochet yarn, there's several little objects you can make. You can make, for starters, by weaving. Oh, okay. Yeah, you can take the yarn and you can weave it, if you have wire, and kind of weave it back and forth around the wire and make a basket. or you can make a wicker chair, a bunch of yarn to a stick. You can create a tiny mop. Okay, so let's add to that a little bit. You've seen me, oh, here. You can use your yarn for beards for your gnome, like I did, or hair for your gnome. You can, if you're a crochetist, you can make, excuse me, you can crochet tiny little rugs, okay? Or tiny little scarves. I've done that. We've done that together here. Okay. Now the next, hi guys. It's okay. I might be talking too loud. The birds, just like a dog, you think they're easy to take care of. They're training you. They're taking care of you. They're kind of shaping out your day. Okay. 14, googly eyes. Anyone with kids probably know googly eyes laying around for many fun little creatures. Next time you're about to retire one of these creatures to the bin, make sure you keep the goofy eyes. These you can disassemble, just the transparent bits, clear curved circles, preferably in different sizes, glue and stick them on using a stippling painting technique to create a set of frying pans. Did you see that coming? I didn't. Googly eyes, this is what they're talking about. These little googly eyes. I have a bunch of these and I don't like them on my creatures. I'm waiting. I've got, see, I don't know if you can see. I feel like it makes my little creatures look cartoonish, and I don't, even though I do draw caricatures, I don't like them on my creatures. I don't like the googly eyes. But she's saying you can take them apart and make frying pans. Those would be really tiny. I guess you could get the larger sizes. With a shiny ceramic finish, you'll love the little cooking pot you make. Okay, now beads. Okay, beads. You can create the interior for a mini home. Chances are that you'll see these beads in many little of the handmade objects. Kitchen tap spouts and the end caps of a curtain rod, or like this. What I made is the little knitting needles. I know I've held these up a few times. I'm so proud of them, though. This is what my little sheep. I think I'm going to try to get a different, or maybe do a little crochet. I know I probably shouldn't put a crocheted piece with the knitting, but it is just a prop that she will be holding. Okay. So you can make the knitting needles. Again, for those of you joining, the way I made these knitting needles is I simply took, I guess you could even take something like this. This is wire. You could take something like this too and just straighten it out. This is just hooks, wire. I think I paid 99 cents for 100 of them. And these are paper clips, and I just straightened them out. And then I just glued a little bead on the end to make my little knitting needles. So other times you'll find beads used as a central transitional element, for example, to create ring pull handles for miniature drawers. That's a really good idea. And that's basically what she's saying there. So the next one is, I love this one, number 16, jewelry charms. If you have an assortment of jewelry charms, it can be worthwhile to look through them and see which ones have a potential for featuring in a miniature setting. I love this. For example, you may find some pieces that remind you of decorative brass ornaments, on antique furniture. So if you are creating like little furniture, let me just show you what I mean. Oh, where is it? Here it is. Put that over there. Like this. See how big that bead is? That's a glass bead. It's from the thrift shop. That would make a lovely, and maybe you can even string, a couple of them together and put, something else on top of it. Like that. I don't know. But, I saw this project and I want to do it so badly. But we'll continue this, but I just first want to say this project before I forget. So the project was something like this. Let me take this. Yeah. So this is just a pin. So they took a couple of beads like this. Oh, I guess I can't get that one. We'll do this one here. Just a couple of beads like that. Super pretty, right? Turn it upside down like that. Look. Now, some of you might know what I'm talking about, but they put it on top of a pencil or a pen, and I want to do that. I want to find that project again. And I don't know the right name for it, but we're going to find it and we're going to do it because now, okay, just this alone, you maybe not using the pin, but use string, beading, wire, whatever you want, and string a couple of the beads like that. And, you can create maybe a little hair piece, for your little miniature critter too. Okay. So it's different things you can do with the beads. It just kind of reminded me of that. But this is saying the beads can be used as decorative ornaments for like to create antique furniture, or like a mirror to create, a fancy kind of frame. These are really good ideas. So you gotta, or like a fancy candle holder. Okay. Now I'm gonna say, I have heard people say, oh, I don't want to scroll and look around at what other people are doing because I don't want to copy. Well, first of all, you're not going to copy, but you're not to learn how to do certain things. You got to kind of look around. You could even go to a museum. Okay, you can get, or you could subscribe to women's art books, magazines. Get the visuals, because all of that information will assimilate in your own mind and you'll create your own beautiful masterpiece. Excuse me. So buttons. There's many different things that buttons can be used for miniatures. You can create little plates. Some buttons are pretty big, but you can create the plates, just kind of maybe put a covering on the bottom of that, paint it, shine it up a little bit. You can, let's see here. Excuse me. You can create little seats for little bar stools. That's a good idea. For example, let's say we're using this little spool. We can put this on here. I mean, you'd spiffy it up. Oh, this one might be even better. It's just bigger. You know what I mean? It's like Oh, that's cute. Look, you could even make a little lamp. You, depending what you have, in your stash here. Okay, look, that would make a cute little lamp. Um, so the buttons, yeah, they can be seats, miniature plates. Small buttons, on the other hand, might become little feet for a little couch that you make. And then there's a snap button. You can make a ball and socket, like parts for snapping them onto a bar, creating a functional access for a pair of wheels. That's super creative. I mean, I do have some snaps here. I have some snaps. And they do look like wheels. Yeah? You see? Yeah, those do look like wheels. Okay, so that's a super good idea. Let's see here. Oh, 18. Here we go. So let me just think for a minute. Buttons. So can I just say, add to that? The other thing I think you can use buttons for, again, would be little caps, maybe little caps. Seriously, depending on the size of your item, and maybe, yeah, if you use the little cork, you could put it on there for, yeah, little seat. Just, you could use it, look, if you have a basket, you can use it for a little cover. Is that just too darn cute? I can't stand it. Oh, it's too cute. Okay, 18, old watches. If you have a cheap old watch and it isn't reliable and you're not using it, it may be perfect for making a miniature wall clock. That's a really good idea because it's just right there, right? And the gears, with the gears being visible. Thinking beyond clocks, you could also use the little dials and gears to create other kinds of contraptions, like a steampunk scene. That's pretty cool. Okay, so for those of you artists who are into steampunk, that's a really good idea. Along the lines of that, you could get an old computer, even at the landfill, and there would be tons of little things like that. The hardware would be perfect for steampunk style little mini dioramas. Okay, number 19, tissues and fabrics. So for those of you joining, this is by amyriver.com, and we're reviewing a number of ideas to make little mini props for our little mini critters. And maybe you want them to hold a basket, or you want them to be washing laundry or something, or knitting, like what I'm doing, working on that project next. Okay, so tissue and fabrics. So tissues and pieces of thin fabric, these can be useful in case you want to make a miniature version of fabric object, like a tote bag or kitchen towel. It's the same idea. But sometimes you just don't think of them that small, right? So, but yeah, little kitchen towels, that's too cute. However, to pull this off, not only should the object be small in size, but the material needs to be thinner. So now we know what to do with the really thin, loosely, not really well woven. I'm just saying, cotton fabrics, it should be thin and fine in texture, and then mimic the shape and appearance of whatever it is you're making. That's why paper tissue might actually look pretty convincing when posing as cotton fabric. Meanwhile, you may actually use cotton fabric to achieve a different effect. For example, a cotton handkerchief. Okay, maybe coming out of a little sack or a little pocket. Dye it with coffee or black tea, and the cotton fibers will resemble the coarse texture of a miniature burlap bag. So that's a really good idea. So, because guess what? If you take burlap and you try to cut it for a miniature, it's not going to work. I had burlap in front of me here. It's just not going to work. Burlap is too coarse. So they're saying to make the burlap bag, take a thin piece of cotton and dye it in your little coffee or tea, whatever. That's a really good idea. I love that idea. Okay, now second, um, chains. So if you have an old cheap necklace or some of the keychains, you're not using anymore, you can build miniatures featuring hanging flower pots on a porch, suspended light bulbs in an industrial interior, chain link fencing a city diorama, or a drawbridge. Yeah, I used the links of a belt for the texture of a drawbridge. Actually, in my book, which is on the other side of the room here, but on the wall hanging. So, okay, let's think of a couple of things here. They talked about, she's talking about light bulbs here too. So I'm assuming that they make the light bulbs also out of the plastic. Okay. But they're not, we would have to look that up special. There's got to be a very special way to make those. Okay. But chains. So yeah, hanging flower pots and little drawbridges. And I think there's many other things you can use the chains for. You could use the links of those chains for maybe just to put on a little bag, like for a little handle for your little miniature critter. Okay, or for me, like what I did with my bears. Whoops. With my bears, I use these little links from from a pocketbook to make my little saddle bag. Okay, that's how I did that. Whoops. I gotta put these guys over here for a minute. Okay. So okay. So the next little item that you can recycle to use to create little miniature props for your little miniature critters are earrings. Um, Perhaps you have a set lying around. You can use the studs of the earring. Um, I think, yeah, I think what she's saying is for a candle holder or for a doorknob. Fish hook earrings can be turned into wall hooks. Yeah, if you're making a little diorama, or used for vintage shop signs. That's adorable. I think I drop more things when I am on here. Like this one's all bent. But I mean, yeah, you could, and you can shape it. So, if there's, I want to put a little wall, let's say in the back of my little knitter, and I want to hang up one of her little blankets, or I want to make a little post. You can take time. Now, the thing is, I was thinking about this. It's going to take, I believe, a lot of time when you're first doing this. And then as you get used to it, you can go a little quicker. There's no doubt, because I mean, you could spend a week on each piece easily, right? Okay. So the next one, I think this might be the last, number 22, is toys. If you have toys lying around, or you go to the thrift shop, there's old toys, broken toys. Um, she's saying that you can use part of the toy, maybe the plastic part. For example, if it's a plastic doll, you can use a bit of the blonde hair to make a bow for a miniature violin. Seriously, how intelligent is that? Like, how creative is that? Genius. You wouldn't think of that. And it's not that hard to make a violin. It's really not. I'm just picturing right now, for the sake of immediacy, I would draw the shape of a violin on cardboard. That's the first thing I would do. And maybe make about 4 or 5 of those, stack them up, glue them together, paint them, and then make the little ridge on the cardboard. And she's saying to use, I'm just gonna, she's saying to use the hair of a doll for the bow. I don't know. I mean, that would be really hard to maneuver. I guess you could. I'm trying to think. I would probably use strands of yarn first before I did that. Just because it would be easier to see and easier to handle. But I guess if you want to get really detailed, you could do that. A discarded plushie, for example, could become a rug or a set of nice, soft, miniature pillows. That's a really good idea. So she's just saying, look in the toy section of the thrift shop. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share with you this morning. And let me just go up to the top. Whoops, I got all these pop-ups come up here. And again, it's Amy River, and I think she did a beautiful job here. It's AIMEE and then the word river. And so check her out and see if you get some ideas. I have one more idea. You can take a little necklace like this, and you can actually, make it. Let's see, we'll put it on the little one we're working on. Put it on your little sheep or whatever you're working on. You can use that too. I've had this around like forever. I had so much of this and I've used it so many times. Anyway, with that, I hope you have an absolutely beautiful day. I hope this gives you some ideas. We'll be back on doing more crocheting, more Boro Sashiko, and I have a number of projects I'll be working on. So we'll see you real soon, and have an absolutely beautiful day. Love and light.